You're on.
Thank you.
So do we make a decision?
We don't need
We'll decide that.
to. Oh.
That just a rhetorical question you're asking here.
My vote was skip it.
The decision on which one.
It's called grade 4 regions of the, what was it, regions of the state.
I think we're in region of the nation, between,
Yes, right.
between state and nation.
I thought we were doing fourth and fifth. We're kind of trying to decide how we're going to split that. That's what I
thought the suggestion was to do regions.
for fourth. Nation, regions of the nation.
What was it, Kathy, you did? Was it you?
Great.
Or what part? I don't know. My brain got really full before lunch. It's like, I can't think anymore. Or how we were doing fourth and fifth.
Yeah. I think that's what we're down to, is we're trying to figure out where we're going to split these or how. We're going to split nation in 2 years. I think everybody's in agreement that we're going to split nation in 2 years, correct? We're going to do less here and move some of it back. I mean, I think everybody's kind of, it's just a matter of where and how.
Are we in agreement on that?
Most people said that.
I'm just making sure.
Maybe I'll do a round table about that, if we're in agreement about that part of it.
Well, problem
It's just a
solved.
matter of how. There he is.
But we don't know what to do on this.
I think it's definitely fair to say we're going to, I would say we talked about splitting up the nation in 2 years, kind of what that actually looks like in each year. I'm pretty curious as to what that split looks like.
Which is why I'm okay with leaving fourth blank right now and not worrying about where the split happens and see if it comes out later in history.
Okay, so
I see what you're saying on this, just leave it for now.
Let's just see what evolves.
okay.
Okay, a really goofy question, but in the third column under B, where it says identifying locations as Mississippi, Missouri rivers, border states, and then we go down to the bottom and it says locate and identify border states on a map. There's no way to condense that.
Oh, yeah, there is.
I'm
Those,
deleting it.
right, we just have to determine, we haven't even looked at that box.
Oh, okay, I was just trying to look up and down.
And we were discussing, to see if we were all agreed on splitting third and fourth into, or fourth and fifth into 2 years of nation. You wanna do something like a round table or something about that? See if everybody agrees, at least on that part of it, just not knowing where.
I'm good with it. Is everybody okay with that? We can live with that?
Splitting up the nation into fourth and fifth grade would be some sort of combination of a focus on the nation. So
We just don't know how, or
Right.
where.
Okay, Alden.
So are we talking about for everything? Or are we talking about just for geography? Are we talking about history? What are we talking about?
Talking about this regional, national, I don't know, somewhere that's important.
So for everything,
Basically, pretty much.
we can give it a shot.
We can go back and redo this work in November.
I'm
It has to be
thinking,
done by.
That's what I said.
We're gonna be sitting here like all old.
No.
You cannot be out of this room till it's done.
Okay,
We're going
so
to create our own history.
if we still look at third grade with absolute location, we have relative in first, and we said we kind of like this one here. All of us were kind of we don't need to list the actual cities. Is that good?
Yes, I
So-
agree with that.
Identify and locate. Do we just stick with Mississippi and Missouri? Or do we say major
Major
rivers?
It says that right there at the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, major cities.
It
rivers,
has
and border
everything
states.
on
Absolutely perfect.
So keep that
I
one.
mean,
So
that's what we.
you're thinking get rid of that. Oops. Get rid of that.
Get rid of what?
What he's highlighted.
The highlight, the blue highlights. And keep, name and locate major cities, rivers, and border states.
Identify and locate.
Yeah,
Identify and
Rivers
locate.
and border states.
Okay. Let's get rid of,
I like name instead of identify.
yes.
Because
know.
I think
Okay.
identify leaves a question sometimes in teachers' minds of what does that mean?
It's fine, as long as it's locate on there.
I tend to agree with you on that. Cities, rivers, and border states. So I'm envisioning a quiz, and there's filling in, but,
Or if they've made a salt map and they're pointing to them.
right.
Or if they've made one just a product to show what they've done. They know where they are.
So then you can, then you would take that out from the second there.
Okay.
Well,
Keep an absolute location. Okay. So if that's third grade, second grade.
Regions of the state.
Right. So we're keeping the continents and oceans there in second? Or do we move those somewhere else?
I think it's second grade can know this. I mean, it's building a foundation for what's
They
to come.
can know it. It's just,
Why not? I'm not
it's in
saying
an
why
odd
not.
place.
It's just that
in
it's
the
stuck
curriculum.
there with
Yeah.
nothing else.
And that's the thing, the only thing that bothers me is just kinda, here's this, and then you're gonna do this.
when do we do globes?
Kindergarten.
Kindergarten. I
I
was
think
not
the
on
reason
this.
continents and oceans are in second is,
Globes.
I don't know if the spelling is an issue. You know, pronunciation. At least that was a struggle for us last year.
Why is it
No, that-
important, why is it important to know the continents and oceans? Why is that important?
So when you are hearing,
Because whatever it's important is what you need to add into the curriculum, wherever you put that. Why is it important to know those things? Otherwise, it's just memorized. Which is, I'm not saying the memorization isn't important to know where they are and where they're located, but why is it important?
I think it helps you later, it builds a foundation for when you get to the higher grades, when you talk about the nation and regions, and even if you're still in the US, and we're fighting wars with other people, they need to know where those places are. I don't know, I'm
Where you call it a African elephant instead of a freaking elephant.
Well,
That's why you need to know.
That's.
That would be a nice quote.
Tomorrow. I'm sure.
That's why we teach the continents.
And you have to think too, if this process with science or reading, it's going to affect things. And if you're wanting them, like on number 6, relationships with individuals and groups, institutions and traditions, I mean, that's gotta fall in there. I don't know, I can't imagine a kid not knowing continents and oceans and read like where things come from and where things are. To me, that's like an essential math skill.
Well, if we're thinking region, if we're thinking the concept
I
of
don't think
region,
it needs to move, but I think something needs to be added, so I'm
So
okay
we
with
wanna,
it there.
what do we wanna add?
the context to make it important. So if we're talking about regions, we've got regions of the state. Well, the actual state's located in a region of the world called North America. That is part of the context. We're in a larger region. Our region is surrounded by an Atlantic Ocean, Pacific Ocean. So, I mean, I think
It's gonna help with directional too.
there's a contextual piece there that I think we can tie it into since we're actually talking about regions. We just need to find where that fits and make sure we tie it in a couple other ways, I think.
I think the biggest issue I have with it is what's written up there right now tells me you need to have a picture of a map, and they need to write those on there or label it, basically. I think that's, they don't have anything, like he said, to hang their hat on, that it's just kind of out there. How do you make it relevant? And how do you say it without telling them how to do it? I mean, we're looking at standards, not curriculum, so we don't want to teach them or tell the teachers what they need to teach. But how do you make it more than just a test at the end, I guess?
And this is first grade? Second grade.
So you're teaching these different continents and different oceans by the people and the things that are found there. See, to me, that the cultural piece of the easy part to integrate all of these.
Well, but this is under the concept of location.
Right, well, they need to
So
know where these people come from.
maybe it has something to do with using the maps and globes. No, I guess that would be above the early.
It's a concept, the A concept.
That's an A
map
concept.
stuff. So do we want to go down to, should we make a note in year 6, or
Okay,
do we want to think through, is there a tie-in with 6 with the?
on its F, it's
Yes.
understanding relationships between and among regions. Would you rather see it there? Right there.
But that's the current second grade glee. So we could. Do we add continent in this list? Identify examples of different regions as a large. Is there a national, I know we're doing regions, but the state, do we ask to put the state in here? Where?
It's one of those inconsistency things that's just really kind of odd for its place. And yet, we know that young people,
And
you know,
they
kids,
know it.
yeah,
And they
need to
can
know
do it.
and can do it. I mean, it doesn't make much sense to them when they say, yeah, that's the Pacific Ocean. I've never seen an ocean, don't know what an ocean is, but that area is the Pacific Ocean.
Right, and I've seen movies about an ocean. I've seen, they can contextualize through electronics.
When I went to Disney World, I swam in the Pacific Ocean, and I know if I travel east, I mean, it all ties in.
Right.
It just doesn't tie in.
When we go to DC,
Oh,
we're
yes,
going to go to the
Absolutely.
Atlantic Ocean just so my
I
kids
watched
can
it.
see all the Atlantic Ocean. They haven't been there yet.
I'm like, very good.
All right, so when we get back up here, let's.
So what's the thinking in regions of Missouri in second grade instead of third grade when you're looking at name and locate major cities, rivers, and border states in Missouri?
Was that possible added last time?
We just did this one
We just
today.
did that.
Right, the possible regions of Missouri on second grade, was that added last time?
Well,
That
the
was there.
reason that's up there is because we said if we're doing, if we're going to the expanding horizons, then we have self-family school, school community. So we're getting regions of this. So we keep getting a little larger region of the state where I live, and then the state, and then that's the reason we did that.
I put it there,
For what?
regions of Missouri.
All right, well, we are not going to be finished by the end of today if we don't make a decision. So, here we have cities and border states. We're looking, here we just have relative locations. Should we add anything about our own township or about, where do we add how we are located in the state with where we live, our community, our county?
That would be, I mean, if we were using this, it would be grade 2.
So,
And grade 3 is the state.
so,
All the stuff that's about the whole state.
so you're thinking the way it would work if we were talking about this would be name and locate, how would you put that? Student, how would we say that? To where it would, every teacher would know that applies to their particular, where they live. Name and locate,
The region of your school,
yeah,
of your community.
Regions within your community, regions,
Around
you.
your community.
So give an example of that.
So
So what,
St.
how
Louis
would
and
a
the
second
surrounding.
grader show you that they know that?
my second grader could say she lives in Ozark, which is in Christian County, and we don't like Nixa, which is in Christian County. I mean, that's the sports world, but that's what we would say. We like Nixa, but when that's our competitor. My second grader could tell you that. I do like Nixa as a place, but
Lose every.
yes, we want them to lose everything. So a second grader can tell you that. I live in Mulberry Ridge community, which is different than,
But it's locate a place, not just name.
right,
So on a map,
so,
on a local map.
I just think local maps are honestly more complicated than for kids than like a state or a national or a world, just because they typically don't have topography. They don't have, I don't know, I'm just trying to think of what that would look like.
But with Google Maps, you can almost get,
You
you
get
can get to
there,
the house. I mean, you
That's
can,
true.
right, you can get to the house, so I can point at, here's my school, here's my house, here's the major intersection we drive through.
Walmart is to the west of my school.
Right,
That
technology
is the
makes
next
it
school
so much
district for
easier
the
now.
next of- Yeah, you're gonna have to get creative.
And it
Do
plays, out across the curriculum in that, okay, now we're also gonna learn something about my local history, about how government at the county, the region, the history of the region, the government of the region, the economics of the region.
The Civil War cave that's in my county.
Exactly. So just jumping straight to the state level.
I'm making something up, so you're gonna have to come help me with it. Okay, that's not what, somebody, tell me what's a better way to say that? Or county/region of the state?
Yeah, would you wanna parallel the language to some of the other languages in there?
Absolutely, I just don't know.
So, we don't like to identify, so I'm assuming we're gonna change identify out of all of these, right? So it would be name and locate the region,
Okay,
because that's what we're naming and locating, it's the region. Of the schools, you know,
Of your community, surrounding your community.
surrounding your
Yeah,
community, yeah.
that comprise of your community.
I like that better, that region, that
Comprise, compose, or something. Name and locate the regions
Includes.
that are included within your community, or
You
anyone
can just
outside.
name and locate regions in your community, and then in parentheses, you might give some examples.
Yeah, that's great, county, township.
so
And what's really neat about that, if something like this to hold up, is we get the teachers then get the opportunity to teach something that really isn't taught right now, which is local control.
Yeah, so that was going to say that, something about like historical things locally.
Yeah.
Um,
Because we really don't have that opportunity right now.
Maybe Kathy can word it for me. I'll just shoot out the words and you put them all together. I don't know how to say it. Historical community significance or whatever.
historical significant,
Local government, I mean,
significant.
you know, the turnout in local government elections are abysmal. Abysmal. And part of it is because we never teach about how important local government is. I think that's part of it. People don't realize what a huge impact local government has on your lives and how much you can actually do with
And
it.
some people don't realize the sacrifice given for the right to vote. They don't appreciate
Right.
it. And therefore, you know, it's right in front of you, so you're entitled to it, so if I went to the bill.
So do we have everything in there that would represent a rural school community, you know, something around their school?
Well,
I think in an
I
urban,
take out community.
in an urban area, neighborhood, I think would be important.
Yeah.
You know,
but
this-
does that fit in grade one?
Yeah, I think that's where we're going to do grade one.
You have community after township, is that supposed to be there?
Yeah, I think that,
Well, I didn't know, I was trying to come up with what are other ways.
You already have community
That's what
in
I'm
your
trying to say.
community.
Okay,
Yes.
got it.
And then I thought you were
that
doing
one, yeah.
That looks great.
And I think we can take out locations too. So that, I think we could probably just do historical. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well,
Well, if it just said historical, I would say, like in our area, it's a big deal that the community, the historical community is Cassidy. We're in Ozark, but if you take a picture, it shows that it's Cassidy, Missouri, which is no longer a place.
That's what?
Cassidy. And if you go, 5 or 6 miles down the road, it gives you a different historical place.
I gotcha.
Yeah, the
Do
small
we
and
need
K.
locations though, if we have name and locate? Do we need the word, could it just say county, township, significant historical, comma, et cetera?
Significant historical what?
I would, yeah.
I need a what?
Yeah.
Regions.
Significant historical.
Name and locate the
Landmarks?
Maybe it should
Landmarks,
be name and
events.
locate the regions, parenthesis, county, township, significant.
Landmarks?
Significant historical, et cetera, in your community. And what you're referring to are kinds of regions.
Right. So should this be
Historical
landmarks?
significance.
Or no? Or locations a different word, better.
That's good.
Okay, tell me what you said.
Well, we can look at that right now.
Tell me what you just,
There will be a ton of polishing at the end.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
and.
You know?
Okay, was that right?
Tanya, do you have does this work for you, this highlighted spot?
Mhm.
How about you?
You can take out that possible regions of Missouri at the bottom though?
Yep.
Okay, so it makes me.
Just the highlighted
Great,
stuff.
I know. Thank you.
How about everybody else? We good? All right.
Here's what we gotta do, we need to do a map key though, for the curriculum map here.
A color key, absolutely.
So you-
We can probably stick it in the comments section.
Yes, it's on there somewhere.
What's the blue?
The blue is we have to, I can exit now. The blue is we need to talk about,
Yeah.
Oh,
but, oh yeah, because we still need to discuss that.
Right.
Or
Where does that fit?
we have to work it in somewhere.
Where does that fit in the standards where students should be able to do that?
So is it that the continents are regions of the world? How do we include that piece to make it fit contextually with everything else?
Can we move it up a grade or down a grade, I mean? Well, however you want to think about it. To first grade?
The continents to first grade?
Because we're doing relative location. I know. I struggle with that too.
I don't think you're gonna find the connection
I know.
right now, maybe it'll come out later in something else, because I was looking at communities and people and culture. I don't want my kid not knowing about a continent in 4th grade.
Why?
Why not? So when we're at war with another country, he has no idea.
But then
We
Where
don't
that
talk
country
about
is or
war
where
in
we go.
first grade.
If we're
And
gonna
what?
do that, but if-
You don't wanna talk about current issues?
My kid.
But if we're going to do
But-
that,
I'm
but if
just
we're gonna
using
do
it
that,
as
then
an
we have to
example.
relook at the way we're doing it. Either, if we're gonna stick with
To
the
be consistent.
thing, or we have to,
Okay, I don't know where
But
oceans
if
and
they're-
continents fits in, other than it needs to be that background foundational knowledge that they should know.
I think in 4th grade, the reason why I say 4th grade is that if we're looking at regions, and we're looking at explorers, we're looking at all those things,
It makes sense.
it's going to be a part of it anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, grade 2, elements of geographical study, part C is identify and describe physical characteristics of the world, landforms, water bodies, etc. Describe different people that move one place to another. I mean, they have to have that basic, I know it doesn't so fit, but it's carried over in the rest of this.
Right, and I guess my question would be, so if you move that to 4th grade, what happens? Like, what's the downside? See, that, I think we have to look, I mean, I would say my concern with regions for 2nd grade in general is just that we're gonna end up with a very sparse, we're gonna end up with very little in there. I don't think there's a whole lot. You're gonna be able to build a whole principles of the republic and government and economy and everything. I think you're gonna end up with a pretty loose, I think it's gonna be kind of, I'm just wondering, are we gonna be able to fill this with just regions of the state of Missouri?
I
But
don't know.
I'm thinking the whole thing, but I think
No,
but in terms of, if we move all the stuff that you're talking about that's in there, I think they end up in 2nd grade in general, just because they felt like it was something kids need to know, and
But
they
where
just
to
stuck it in
put
2nd
them,
grade.
Yeah, because it does stick out, even in the way the the way it's.
So that's what I'm saying, I don't know if we move
Came
it to
to
fourth
us,
grade,
yeah,
it's gonna be an
sticks out,
awful.
right.
I think it could be better connected if you did to what we added. If you use the same language, I think that would help teachers and kids name and locate regions of our world, and then in parentheses put 7 continents and 4 oceans. Or continents and oceans. Because so then you're grounding, you're building the concept of regions over different contexts.
Right.
Well, I mean, and looking through a teacher frame and adding name and locate the regions in your community, the second grade, you created a new unit. In my thinking, that's a whole unit of study now. But I'm gonna be looking to pull and cluster other standards in order to make that happen, but that's definitely a new
Right.
place to hang your hat, I guess. But if it were me and it stayed like this, I would probably be dividing the school year up into local regions and regions of the world. You know, I would be framing it in that way.
I agree. And I'd probably start with the local, the idea of region locally, and then talk about the idea of region.
Around the world.
Right. That's probably.
I mean, it certainly wouldn't be any different from the way it is now. Because right now in second grade, that kind of sticks out there as a glee that's kind of different from everything else in second grade.
It's me, now instead of just
So we say.
identifying and locating, when you pair it with looking at another type of region,
Right.
it's a different level of thinking.
Yeah, it is. Now we're doing,
Concept.
that's right.
Right.
The concept of region, which is the building block of geographic study.
Then now do we
Parentheses.
parentheses, like we've done the other?
Yeah.
Uh,
And now the bigger question, is there a continent of Australia or Oceania?
I haven't heard that.
You never heard of Oceania?
It probably won't come in second grade.
It won't come up in second grade.
Unless your kid's in that class.
But I'm thinking, I would even put those above the equator, below the equator, those are regions, those, do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Said
Those
Australia.
Australia's a country.
Uh,
So Oceania includes.
No, I mean, you don't have to put that,
Oh,
I'm just thinking
well-
in terms of world regions, there's lots of even beyond continents and oceans.
So
So do
The
we
northern
need to-
hemisphere, the southern
Right.
hemisphere, you know,
This strand from somewhere else says identify
Yep.
hemispheres, continents, and oceans using globes and maps. They're very, very simple. And I think you can just keep with name and locate, but just keep it simple. Hemispheres, continents, oceans.
Take away the equator?
When you're discussing, when you're discussing
Hemispheres,
hemispheres.
that's what you're saying.
Prime meridian.
But then again, big
Yeah.
picture.
I think you could just put hemispheres,
Okay.
because you'd be talking about all that.
Here, I'll give you a text.
I like that better.
Okay.
Okay.
Are we thumbs up all the way around?
Fantastic.
I think that works.
Okay, so where is regions of the
Patrick
state?
got his thumb up.
He's still drinking that 20 pounds, which I call it.
And you keep drinking it too, don't you?
Yeah, just to put it in your face.
It's like, I'm almost empty already. I'm feeling it. I was like, hey, let's go, or run around, let's go.
No, you're right. I have to have
So
this
should
make cane
we-
ache.
What
Either that
about
or I
regions
crash.
of the
There's not
state?
a-
Would that be
I don't know.
part of third?
Feel the
So we have
cat.
name and
I don't
locate
have.
major cities, rivers,
I
and
don't know.
That's
I
like no
don't know.
problem.
Region.
First step is admitting it.
Oh, I know that. I
And border states.
I don't know.
Nice.
What are we talking about?
so we don't have Missouri regions anywhere in there.
Do we add it right here? That's what we talked about.
Then you do regions of the nation somewhere in fourth or fifth.
Right. Yeah, so I was thinking about that too, because you could do either regions within, so if we look at what is the second grade where we were just working, you could do regions in 3 different ways, right? You could do regions in your local community, regions of the state, and regions of the world. Or,
That's kind of what we have.
or you
Under our
could
umbrella.
put regions of the state under the state category of grade 3. I think you can go either way.
Identify locations and physical characteristics of places in Missouri. Even locate cities of information first. Okay.
Somebody's gonna ask, so name, where's the list of the regions of the state of Missouri?
Yes, it will.
Right, we'll be
Because they're
creating a new
currently taught.
content feed.
Yeah, so that's currently taught. And it's significant in the state, given the geography of the state, because it impacts the economy of the state, it impacts who settled where, all of those sorts of things historically. So I think it's, you know,
Bring
it's
up
important for
history.
young people to understand that about the state. It's just, does it fit better under this general conception of regions, or does it fit better under the study of the state?
Right.
Currently, it's done under the study of the state in grade 3. And I could argue either side, and I don't feel really strongly either way, so.
Sorry, I hit the wrong button. Alright,
Mobile light when you name and locate regions, major cities, rivers. Oh, we didn't.
you would what?
Nothing.
Oh, okay.
So the way it's written right now, it's in grade 3.
Yes.
I'm comfortable with that. Rock fuel's kicking in. Let's go, guys.
You good? We're voting. Thumbs up or thumbs down?
I'm good, it's like it is, we're the yellow side.
Next.
Oh, first
We didn't
grade.
get a vote from Tanya.
Oh.
I don't know.
It's fine to go on.
No, but if you don't like it, we can start.
I'm not sure, I think I have to process it. So it's okay to move on.
I think I do worry, my only worry is that part of it's just the layout of everything else, and but when we see all these things just in isolation,
Yeah, we're gonna have
I
to go
just hope
back.
that this isn't all just being taught in isolation.
Right.
Agreed.
Because that does just become a series of, I'm picturing quizzes with match A, where is, look on the map and find letter A.
So they're gonna have to be taught how to
Yep.
assess in other ways.
I know, I'm just saying,
You know?
that's just
I
my
mean, that's a
concern
fear of
with
all
all
of
of
us,
this.
absolutely.
But, you know,
But I can't let that stop.
Here, at lunch, here's what I kind of paint for myself. Okay. Because it's driving, because I'm a whole picture person. And so every single time we think about something, I'm trying to put it in the context of how I would teach her what that unit's going to look like. And so what I've come to is, okay, so what's going to be important at each grade level to know this? But I think if we don't frame this in a way that's connected, when we have all these pieces, then our job's not done. I mean, I do feel like, so in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I can live with that right now, but if later when we synthesize it all, if it doesn't synthesize, then I'm not okay with leaving it.
I like the essential
That's
question.
We have, you know,
where we all are, I think.
I think the essential questions are considered. So, I mean, I understand the local control, I understand the curriculums, and I understand all those pieces, but I also think that if they're gonna be basing things off of this, which theoretically they're supposed to be, or if I look at Aaron and this is what he gets, we can't just say, well, we'll just leave that to everything. I mean, I think if there's a way that we can be creative about how we write things, whether it's through essential questions or how we do it, or we write them more, just making sure at some point in time that we also write in skills that we're looking for to be assessed, and not just, can they name this, or, you know, if we look at whether it's at the knowledge levels, or trying to figure out what that means, I don't know where that fits, and I just do think that we've got to kind of, so it doesn't end up being.
It's in writing.
Right, I mean, I'm with it, I'm just saying nobody's gonna, look at that part as much, but, you know, just in terms of what we're asking, we're even just kind of being cognizant about how could you read this and make it synthesize into something bigger and important, so it makes sense. So, no, I'm good with this also.
It's funny, in grade 6, something completely different. Locate the world's continents, oceans, and major topographic features reappears.
Right. Okay, so, do we need to add anything in grade 1 that has to do with their community or your school? Where do we map out?
We already had it.
I think
Isn't
we
it an
created
A?
a map.
We said,
Yep, perfect, so we're good to go then.
Locate the assistant superintendent's house. Down there.
We can do that. Right, done with B?
I have something on here that says notes, could you keep going with B on down, so there's more B.
I think we did that though. Didn't we add that in under?
We've not added those in.
We had talked about it.
You talked about, well, this is probably,
Keep going up.
Up.
I'm pretty sure it's not in there.
no, we didn't add those.
So that directionality,
That could go in kindergarten.
north, south, east, and west, probably not.
The kindergarten teachers
depending on what you're wanting. to
puts the
do.
north side of the room, south side.
Yeah, but that's what it means to them. North is always this way.
No,
like,
They
you know,
don't,
like-
they
I
don't
know-
label their wall.
No, they do, but that doesn't mean they know what north is. They know that wall over there is an N.
And you're wanting them
But
to
ask
know
them which
what-
side, ask them what direction the sun comes up.
From the ground.
How
Right.
about?
It's really part of absolute location. Because it's, in addition to that kind of grid, you also need to know that absolute location is not just the grid. There's a real life absolute location, you know, that it's, so to me, we should pair somewhere with that.
Right and left, and then when he's facing me, then his right hand's actually on my left side, that still blows their mind. But look at that.
Exactly.
So where does that fit then?
I mean, the above and below and all that could be in kindergarten. Yeah, now, north, south, east, and west, that could be.
Why not identify locations using positional words?
So,
Very simple. Identify locations using positional words. You can even put it to as in the classroom, like far, near, left, right, above, beneath, et cetera, whatever. And then you're gonna jump to your northwest, south, east, and then I don't know if you wanted to just cardinal directions or not.
yeah, so that's the thing, so now we're dropping actual academic language. Because there are things like cardinal directions, relative positioning, location, and, you know, these are concepts that have
We've got them
specific
here. We add them in first grade.
meaning.
In kindergarten, are we okay if they don't know they're called cardinal directions?
I don't think in kindergarten they're
Right.
going to be able to
Not
identify.
kindergarten, no.
No,
Because
that's why I said
Kindergarten
use
is gonna be up
positional
and down,
words.
front and back.
Position. Myself, I am
Right.
to the left of the teacher. The gym is to the right of the cafeteria, whatever. I had above, beneath, right, left, near, far, whatever you want to use. I don't know if they do that many.
Near, far, don't have that.
Then I think when you go to second grade, or no, first. First grade, they're doing map signals. Is that where we put map signals? Do you remember? We had map symbols in here somewhere. Or compass, or cardinal directions.
First grade.
Yeah,
Cardinal.
you can do cardinal directions in first grade.
Right. Okay. That covers all of B.
Awesome. What's the cardinal directions under that already?
It fits under use of compass roads to identify cardinal directions, which is in grade 1.
How about using compass rose and cardinal? If you leave it like that, then that means they have to use the compass rose to tell you what direction we're going on a map. That's what you're wanting.
Because that's what a compass rose is.
Right, but you were saying like, if
Like
they
you
were the
said,
signs
Right,
that
so
are
then there's that
identified
separate, yeah,
without one.
so there's a separate one too, right?
That's what a compass rose is. Thanks. I'm gonna go copy. Let's see if you can.
Okay, understanding the concept of place. Grade 5 is physical characteristics, climate, topography, relationship to water and ecosystem. In grade 2, we talk about physical characteristics of the world, landforms, water bodies, etc. Is there anything between K and 1 and 3 and 4 that needs to be added? So,
We're looking at both rows. 'Cause I
right,
actually
we've
think
got
that
human
second
characteristics in 4.
row, I actually think that row might be more applicable, and maybe but if we're talking, I mean, couldn't that be applicable if we're looking at it from all the way through? I mean, all the way, shouldn't you be looking at some of those things? So for example, say population composition, if you're talking about regions of the state, wouldn't it make sense to want them to know that Kansas City and St. Louis, there seems to be a little bit more population density? Or looking at what kind of architecture you might have in your local town, and what kind of, like, if you're a farming community, what does that mean? So that's urban and rural. I mean, I think you could bring in some of those things even as we're talking about community. I just kind of think maybe that could be spread out.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Do we have urban and rural somewhere down here?
We took it out. It was in there someplace above.
Okay, we took it out.
There's a little bit right there to explain why
Yeah,
you're living in different places.
And E.
Right there's 1, 2, right there.
Yeah, urban and
Somewhere
rural,
where I
right,
thought
right
C
here,
is
yeah.
someplace, yeah. That's
So understanding
second grade.
relationships, yeah, that's in 2nd grade. Okay, so if we're thinking through, which one are we on? Sorry. Okay, we're thinking through this one.
Concept of place.
Understanding the concept of place through physical characteristics and human characteristics.
I'll be honest, I'm not real sure what they mean by understanding the concept of place.
Found that the National Geographic standards and their kind of, I guess, strand on place. It says places or locations having distinctive characteristics that give them meaning and distinguish them from other locations. And then under the concept of place, and this is, they do benchmark grades, so this was their 4th grade standard. So identify and describe categories of characteristics that define a location and place, weather, population, architectural styles, landforms, vegetation, culture, industry. Identify and describe the defining characteristics of the student's community as a place, and describe how certain places may have meanings that distinguish them from other places. Cemetery, historical park or battlefield, religious shrines or temples, state or national parks. And then they have another grouping of characteristics of place, and then they have, that's divided into physical and human.
So it's basically the different kinds of characteristics, whether in Missouri it's whether it's physical characteristics or human characteristics. Probably the most direct way that I see doing this is that we match up to these levels. All right, so 5th grade would be about physical characteristics of the nation.
So Royal, doing that other team.
What was
What is it?
Yeah, I mean, no one actually wins.
That's funny.
Right, so if we were to look at number 5, or grade level 5 right now, it says identify physical characteristics such as, it goes through the list. Does it make sense to say of the nation, physical characteristics of the nation such as? prior one to that, fourth grade is
Regions of the
parts,
nation?
regions of the nation, and Missouri, the characteristics of Missouri, and your surrounding community. Where you-
Well, do we need all of these things? When do we use words like topography? When does that?
I
come
think
into-
it's important though.
the map, for that map, but it's a top, that's what.
Yeah, I think they're important in all of them, so, you know, are we in a hilly area, or are we not in a hilly area?
Okay,
Are
so
there
do we
mountains
use the
or
word
aren't?
topographical or topography? When do we use that? Or we just talk about, we just describe
We
topography?
use it for the
This
regions.
tells you this, and man.
You mean your student,
It's
you
like
mean when
nice
would
from like
students
the
do that?
map that you can feel.
When
it.
does that word, when
Topography.
does that word
We
become?
more or less
Show me
define
that.
what it means and give examples of. which I
The
think is
glossary
actual
terms are the bold ones, so the
Right.
ones that we're asking at the way the current document works.
Right. Okay.
Missouri.
And then there's the language that the National Geographic, you said, use for like of your towns, like knowing what.
Yeah,
the
what,
difference
yeah, I
is.
like that language.
And I even think you could get into, I mean, we used to do lessons like through junior achievement, that even talked about like how do you zone
Mm-hmm.
different areas of your community for the, whether it's
So that-
residential, whether it's business, is it public lands? Like, in fact, that certain
There's
things.
no zones in our county.
No, like you don't have a residential, nobody's zoning, you have no zoning.
Residential, industry,
No zoning.
Sure, there's taxes.
Yeah, even like the fact that.
For taxing,
Right,
yes.
for taxing, there's a
But I mean, it's not
Like
like
it has some sort
you
of
have
public-
a,
Right. I mean,
This
it's-
is
But-
residential,
but like my
business,
property
or
might have-
agriculture.
Right, but
be
resi-
partially residential, partially agriculture.
that's gotta be, because that, but you have a different tax rate depending on what you're, so it's gotta be zoned some way.
For that.
Yeah.
But as far as like building or any of that kind of stuff, there's nothing.
Oh,
right
right, like
here.
with zoning, like where
Yeah,
someone
like-
comes in and makes sure you're meeting requirements.
Got it.
Like, you can only build in residential zone to live in.
Right.
That doesn't matter where we live. I mean, you can build, if you wanna live in an old factory or whatever it used to be.
And then they
it
just
doesn't
say, are
matter.
you living here, or are you working here, and they determine your tax rate, like how do they determine your tax rate?
Ask
Tell the
them.
assessor.
You just go pay it. You don't tax it.
Well, in this,
Well, then I think even from, but from a school district, if I were
Yeah.
just people, I'd want
How
everything
does-
zoned
yeah.
business because they pay a higher tax rate. I mean, that's where the higher property
Well-
tax rate.
I mean, it's, my grandparents owned property that flooded every year. They ran cattle on, is what they did. When it rained really hard, they'd move cows off the property. But they had part of that zoned as residential. Well, for taxes, they'd pay more money down there. And they're like, you couldn't build a house on that
I thought this was the
for
big
anything.
thing.
But they wouldn't change it.
Our district has more residential areas than does the district next to us, but they, so they're just. a
But
different-
which one are you talking, this
They,
one?
they,
that one
See,
you keep
look at
copying and pasting, no, the yellow, the one above.
Oh,
Physical
got it.
characteristics.
I mean, there's. most
So,
of
but
it's
what did
agriculture.
we, read to me what's the National
Because
Geographic?
this is about physical
Right.
characteristics, not about
that's how I
something.
grew up, and I'm thinking that, I didn't know that one.
Under
Kinda
the
like
physical,
how I grew
all
up,
the things
probably
they list under
shaped the
physical
people.
characteristics,
But Probably the same way, no?
I have cities
and a
where
variety of
highways.
scales, local, global. Different places, so they have describe and compare the climatic conditions of different places in the United States. And then they have deserts, mountains, rainy regions of the Pacific Northwest. Describe and compare the vegetation in different places in the world, deserts, mountains, rainforest, plains. Describe and compare the physical environments and landforms of different places in the world, mountains, islands, valleys, canyons, and basins. That's their physical.
that's what we talked about. Your school in kindergarten. I mean, you
You
could,
could even say this.
you could use physical characteristics of your school.
Your school grounds.
And make it not just the grounds, but like our building, we say this is the second, third grade. This is the fourth and fifth grade. This is somebody's classroom. And if we're talking-
Climate, then we
that's-
wouldn't,
No.
Yeah, some of that stuff would have to go, but
Why not just basic physical characteristics?
right.
Like mountains, rivers, I mean, just the basic.
Stop right there.
They're gonna be, at one point in time, was it in kindergarten, we had where they would construct like a map of the school and some of those things too, so I mean, I think.
Yeah,
this
that's
would
what this is.
be- Right, this would be part of it.
These are your school grounds, I mean, it's really not, it's,
I don't know if I like just school.
Physical
I mean,
characteristics.
it's really the geographical characteristics.
Right.
Characteristics of your-
But we say
Or is it
geographical.
physical features?
They talked about place, what did they say? They said it was something that had a unique set of characteristics.
But I think when you think about the school things, those are really the human characteristics.
Right, they're not physical.
But that's the next part, right? So I guess, so maybe we just put it in with the next part.
Not physical features. To me, a feature would be different.
I think we
Well, I
take
mean, I'm thinking of, you know,
K out of there. I'm for nixing K.
You can. Yeah, I was okay without it. But I think, I'm hearing what you're saying, is that we're talking about geography, we're not talking about a particular building. So school
I mean, the
grounds,
building is a characteristic, but I think it's a human characteristic versus.
school grounds, and maybe home.
Physical features of
Let me
the,
read you the human characteristics that they, and I'm not saying that National Geographic's a big expert. So for human characteristics, describe and compare the human characteristics of places in a variety of scales, local to global, as exemplified by students in Unit 2. Describe and compare the types of clothing, housing, and transportation used in different countries located at different latitudes in the world. Describe and compare the human characteristics of rural versus urban locations in the United States, for example, single-family homes versus apartment buildings, different languages and cultures in urban areas. Describe and compare the types of grocery and food items from different countries in the local supermarket.
Yeah, but see, I'm actually thinking, if we're talking about just the place, the fact that when you are in this school, you are in what place? You know, where exactly are you located in the place is not necessarily determined by it's not determined by what different, all kinds of different people can come in and out of the building and,
Right.
but how do you determine where you actually are in this building? Like, what's the physical traits of where you are? I am on the north side of the building, if we're looking at that, or, you think you should. Right, I'm just saying that, I think that's where you start to kind of, but when we're building a map, we're talking about, the kids are gonna be creating a map, we're talking about where they're physically located.
But I think we already have, that's already up
Right.
there, right?
that's,
Right, I'm saying you could do that, but as it all comes in together, like, how would that be different than the same thing with any place else? As you're building a map, you're talking
If
about.
you're
the
talking
physical.
about where they actually are in terms of the geographical, physical characteristic, though, like where I'm at, we would be on the plains.
Right, so it's just not.
But you would be in probably a mountainous region.
How about identify physical characteristics of your home and school?
so the physical characteristics of my home would be,
I live on a place called Sunny Top. It's pretty hilly, on the very top.
so I've got a steep driveway.
I do.
I mean, I do. I've got a steep
But
driveway,
there's
so-
also, it's got trees.
Hard to shoot back.
If B is understand the concept of location,
Place.
and C is understand the concept of place. Is that big of a difference?
Yeah, well, because the one is like, this is a location, and this one is what are the physical characteristics of it? So we're gonna talk about, like it says, climate, topography, those sorts of things.
Really
That's
don't-
the distinction that they make.
So the
they
place, So the
I
actual,
That has
Because
been
look,
made.
I know, but look
I
at
don't
that.
see the relevance of this whole concept.
To me, a location is a place or a position, and then it says a place is a particular position or point space. So I'm like, why are we making this harder than it needs to be?
So what you're saying is, could we just say,
Combine the two somehow.
taking, instead of just say,
Just take this one out.
identify the physical characteristics of your location? I mean, wouldn't it be,
Yeah.
so if you just, is there a difference between location and place?
That's what I was asking.
Right.
Because I don't know.
Because could you just take some of those things and just be asked to do it up above?
And I went back to what you said, like if you're putting this into a lesson, it's like, if I can wrap two of those up in one thing, then
I know.
both don't really need to be there. And I guess I just don't get why K. I think K could add to another portion, but not stand alone on its own.
You're thinking like that.
I don't know. Just a thought.
I think what the difference is we haven't asked for some of the other things, like what's the climate of your community, and that above when you're talking about your location, is just finding it on a map. It may not be how.
One's
Yep,
map
That's what it
skills.
is.
So,
Right, one is map skills, one is how you look at, because if we want kids to analyze a map in third, fourth, or fifth grade,
Or like as
they
we're
have to
walking,
start thinking about what.
as we were walking for lunch, we were discussing the difference, even though we're in the same state, but the fact that for some reason it seems like Kansas City, you guys get a lot of weather patterns that come through different in Kansas City than even in St. Louis, even though we're kind of in the same spot, or Farmington and St. Louis, they tend to get more ice, where when we get snow, they tend to get more ice at times. And there's some of those types of things that, I guess that's the difference, but. So when
To
we're
me,
talking
I
about
just,
climate,
I,
topography,
for me, I feel like this is where we're like honing in on some special focus of like these concepts of this stuff where I feel like this is more of a bigger picture that we should be allowing the districts to determine how they go about teaching that to the kids. Like, I feel like this ultra focus on these minute details in something that it's hard to imagine. I mean, when I'm just talking to my kids, I mean, we're talking about these very things, and it's not, I mean, I get very concerned because you guys talk about how, well, if it's on the list and the teacher's gonna just check it off and do its thing on the list, wouldn't these be things that, when you're talking about the different regions of the state, you're gonna talk about how, hey, at Kansas City, it's not snowing today, but it's snowing in St. Louis, or, I mean, aren't these things that we're already doing? It feels like such a micro focus on tiny little different details that it just doesn't compute in my brain.
I think yes, we do talk about it, but we hope everyone talks about it. But having it on here ensures that it has been talked about. So it becomes a checkbox where we can say, yes, we are including this in our conversations.
But yes, it's a fine line between
Right.
making that broad and specific.
Yeah.
And that's, I think,
Very
what we're all
Right.
struggling with.
But I think we get more
It's not.
specific, like, I have to get more specific, because when I look at this, I think, okay, so what does that actually mean to me? Like, how do I make sense of that in the same way a teacher would? So we get specific, it's looking at that, because I'm trying to explain it to myself. So when you're looking at it from a teacher's perspective, do I think I can see that you can teach multiple of these things all at the same time and have different objectives? And so like this may be very well lumped into when you're teaching certain things about how do you identify what region, or when you're talking about the state, what's the difference between, you know, the southwest corner of the state and the northeast corner of the state? Like what are the physical features of those, and how do those differ? Yeah, you're probably going to talk about three things, and that's why when we talk about an assessment document, now you're thinking, okay, so when we're teaching these things, what is it that we want the kids to actually come away with? We want them to know that there are some physical differences between these different areas of the state, so they have some understanding of the place around them. And you may do multiple things all within one lesson or one concept. Well, I think I get specific just because I'm trying to think about how that actually would make sense, and is there a way it makes sense for me?
Right, and I may wrap it up in my morning message. Hey, you know, we could do morning, here's the weather for the day, so I didn't include science with this kind of thing. The northern part of the state received snow today, and they're out of school, and yet we aren't. And that's the kind of stuff you include.
Craig, I'm kind of leaning towards where you are with this. I'm not sure that there's a lot of value in kindergarten to drilling down.
Right.
That when we talk about identifying the physical characteristics of your community in first grade, if a student can do that, That's probably good enough. I mean, I don't think we need to drill down to the school own level in grade K to finish out the chart.
And a lot of these kids, this is their first time ever in school,
Yeah.
or pre-K,
So-
or any
so
kind
I
of
think-
structured anything.
I would vote for it to be like that, the way you have it right now. I'm comfortable with that, the way it is right now.
Do we yellow this?
And then that one stays there because it
That's
matches what's above.
Right. But we get rid of the blue. Are we keeping that? I'm just curious, because well, I said the world, so I'm not sure if we were keeping the world.
Yeah, we kept that
I think
up
we're keeping
above.
World and Missouri.
And then I think the same pattern kind of works for the next standard, where it's human characteristics as physical characteristics.
I think there's a way to make this simpler though, when you get down to lower grades. Mm-hmm.
Instead of just put physical slash human. Combine with one.
Oh.
What you already said there.
Yeah.
Like to me, I keep going back to, if you're having to explain in such detail what you mean, isn't it kind of defeating the purpose?
As an example, what, which one?
Well, I mean, just all of these, it's like identify physical characteristics of, or human characteristics of a place, and then we give them all, why don't you just say, do this very specific thing, because that's what we're really wanting them to do, is describe human characteristics such as population, composition, architecture, kinds of economic and recreation. I mean, we're wanting them to do those specific things because you're wanting to test on it, right? So
But you
why
know,
not
you
just
want-
tell them,
But you want kids to be able to do those things.
These are what kids will be able to do.
right? And I look at them and go, if I, as a parent, I'm not really quite as, concerned with all these great details of these types of things.
You mean like the examples we give?
Well, just this concept, period. I mean, it's hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that this has to actually be a concept when you're teaching in the third grade, the state of Missouri, that within teaching about the state of Missouri, you have to actually tell teachers, we want kids to know that there's different regions in Missouri, and we want kids to know that there's different topography in Missouri, and we want kids to know that there's different climates in Missouri. Like, to me, that just
But the other side of
goes
it, from the
with how
teacher's
we're-
perspective, the other side of it is, if all you tell me is I'm supposed to teach about Missouri, okay, how much? What do I
Isn't that
teach?
what the local school district is supposed to determine,
But they build it
what
out
they teach
Somewhat,
about?
yeah, I mean, they'll do a little, yeah, I mean,
Some
let's.
teachers are given just this.
Yeah.
And that's it. They're not given
So
the
if it just
breakdowns
says-
that the bigger districts have.
They're just given this.
No,
This.
this.
I would, I mean, I would
Aaron, you
think
just
this
have
would
this,
be
right?
better to have than all of this. This is so, I mean, the only way I can begin to understand it is by just literally typing out exactly what it is.
So, but the
you're
issue
saying
is,
about
if
kindergarten.
all you give them is the blue sheet, then you've got every teacher in every building, or you've got all that are creating this all on their own.
Which is
And
what we have.
there's no way, and so if you've got a kid that moves, or you've got kids that are doing, there's no consistency even in terms of what you have an expectation for any child to learn. So they're gonna learn about the state of Missouri, but what that means to Aaron in terms of what he's trying to teach may be something maybe different from the teacher in a building even across the hall. I mean, so you gotta find where's that balance between, because if it's too broad, then you've got everybody filling it in on their own. And creating essentially this, you've got everybody because to teach it every day and everything, to figure out how deep do I go with each piece without some sort of guide, it means each teacher's making all those decisions on their own.
I think,
I guess they just keep going back to, you guys, everybody talks about how there's so little time to teach, quote, social studies, that these types of detailed things to me just go, not as important as some of the other stuff. But we're spending hours on trying to word
Sparse
this
it
in
out,
such
right.
a way that,
And I think that's a different question, is do we care whether kids know the physical characteristics of their community or not?
I would think they're going to, they may not know, I mean, to me, I'm thinking they are gonna know it. Maybe it's just somebody pointing out to them what it is they already
That's
know.
hold up, that's somebody. that's why this ensures that every kid should be getting it. Even
Yeah,
though
I
it's
look-
individualized at the local
I
level.
look at this like this is the guarantee.
Right.
Because, I mean, if we're gonna have a guaranteed curriculum in the state of Missouri, curriculum being that it's going to be taught, the local level decides how much, but if we're gonna, it's gotta be guaranteed, because I've got kids in my district, I just taught, 300 teachers at Branson schools on Friday, and what we were talking about was how poverty affects the school. And in their school district where you have 75% kids in poverty, you don't have parents who have the kind of discussions that all of us do with our children. So how do we guarantee that those kids get some of that discussion? We have to write it down. So teachers at least go over it, even if it's minimal, but we hope it's more than minimal, and we hope they work it into their conversations about the state, about history, we want them to work in, so what made it so hard to fight in the South in the Civil War? Well, you had some swampy lands down there that were mosquito infested, that were pretty, so that's about topography, I think we hope they infuse this into all of it, and it's really an intra look. But to guarantee it, you have to write it down, if it's gonna be guaranteed. I agree, we're spending tons of time doing it.
Well, I guess what I'll say is this gives me hope for some of the bigger things that are very important, that we'll spend even more time on those, that we're spending this much time.
I think we will, honestly, I really do.
And I think actually that may be the discussion, is when we said some of the things that are very important. I think that may be part of what the discussion needs to be, is how are we even determining what's very important? And are we making sure, I mean, that could be all the way down to is it the essential questions pieces? Because that's the other piece that gets into is what's very important might depend on who you ask. But I think that's part of the conversation. So I think, essentially what I hear, and kind of what, and maybe I'm stupid, but is this important enough that we make sure we even have it in there? Like, is this something do we want kids to know this? And if we say, yes, this is something we feel like kids should know, then maybe we take time for it. But if we say, no, I think that's what we're doing. So it is in terms of what's very important.
In the human characteristics one, there's an interesting change between, what is that, 4th grade and 5th grade?
Yeah, I moved it to 3rd grade. I left 4th and 5th the same.
There's an I missing and identify in the 4th grade one.
There's a what?
The I missing and identify.
Thank you,
Almost.
because I didn't do a very good job of copying and pasting. So right here, there is a definite difference between these two.
Uh-huh.
Yes, I agree. It's like they were trying to.
It's interesting, I wonder why.
I think that's on the state level. And then when you start talking about the nation, you don't get to some of that specificity. It's a different type of specificity.
It is.
I almost wish they would give us a blank slate from the start from scratch.
Oh, absolutely.
Because going back, trying to
Yeah,
figure out
trying to
what
figure
their
out
thought
why
process
they did
was, because they
that.
had to have some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Is it fair, is it not? And then how do we want to make it work?
I thought we had that. Technically.
Okay. We do.
We
Right.
do, don't we?
Yeah,
We actually
technically
have
we
that
do, yeah.
option.
But this is,
I was looking at
there's an interesting distinction between the two.
Which one are you looking at?
So under human characteristics, in grade 5, it's identify diverse human characteristics such as, and then I'm looking at the original
Right.
version. In fourth grade, it was describe human characteristics of a place such as, and the such as's are different.
I think it's scope. I think one you're looking at the nation. And one you're looking at
A
Missouri,
particular-
or a particular place. So in St. Louis, depending on the part of the city you go to,
Right.
depends on the kind of architecture you have, the type of. So I think the scope of what they're looking at. Okay, in grade 2, we think about. Go ahead.
So where you are right now, that's the
Grade.
regional, right? No, that's
State.
grade 3, that's the state. Do we want to say state? Describe human characteristics
Of a place in the
of
state.
the state of Missouri?
We could. Of the state. Or in
Or of
Missouri.
Missouri?
Of Missouri.
Does that make sense? I don't know.
Because I do think you could simplify it just by saying it for combining to understand, but identify physical and human characteristics of, and then for each grade level, you know, you have community, you have rural, you have state, you have nation, whatever, and then in the glossary, you list out, when we say physical characteristics, they are these things.
That's
what I
what
was
Laura was
thinking.
asking, we had talked about earlier.
I would like to be able to, as a teacher, I'd like to be able to look at this document and it be as specific and honed in on what I need to teach as possible. And then if I don't know human characteristics of a place such as Missouri,
Uh-oh.
then I can go look at it
Sorry.
last week. And that's what I'm hoping by doing, even if we put them within the cell that you're in now, as we put in there. I'd later love to remove those from all the glossary and then make this look real sharp and clean.
Right,
Well,
because you teach those things
It's
together,
like
you
human
really don't,
characteristics.
they don't make
This
sense that you use them
separation.
separate.
Yeah.
I think, again, this was like a planning document.
They just need to
But
be
even if
further.
we hand this to a district for them to work from,
Right.
if we can come up with a different format to make their jobs easier, they're gonna be more open to this.
Well,
And then if your district doesn't give you anything different,
Right.
you at least have this. There was one I looked at on,
Maybe that's,
they do exactly this. Remember how I went first grade, I had social studies, it's not like good, but it was also, I'm like, why don't we have that capability? You know how much easier your kids in class would have it, going plan this lesson on it. So you click, you want your standards, you click, you want your social sciences, you click, you want the grade level, and you can do multiple. You can get what you need.
I think we continue like this though,
Oh, yeah.
and then there's an iteration of this document that follows, where it does stuff that combines.
And that's just it, what we do, what science does, what the 6-12 people do is all gonna look different. So at some point, somebody's gonna have to put it together like that.
Right. How do we
So
make
that's not gonna be our
this?
job.
Or you don't wanna add Missouri at the
Right.
third grade level?
Missouri, I didn't put it in there. How do we change this one?
We use the same language as above, parallel language as above. Of the student's region.
But we don't really need all those. Do we need all of those characteristics?
But right now, we leave it, like, we were just having a side conversation, is specify it out like this, and then there's gonna be an iteration of this document later
Big concept.
that
Here's what you-
does what Kathy was just talking about, and Laura was talking about earlier, where we might collapse some of these together. But right now, as a planning document, to make sure we have everything in there. And then the next iteration kind of, we'll see some of these things collapse together that, and then link to a glossary that says physical and human characteristics,
Right.
which is under C. And then you click on, if someone doesn't know what a physical characteristic is, they click on that and it goes to a glossary. It says some physical characteristics include.
what would you say are human characteristics that they're talking about?
So they listed them there.
I'm just reading the,
It's a little different.
it is different the way the glossary
Is it?
explains it. It says the human characteristics of a place pertain to those features of a place that are the results of human activity. Places vary in the nature of their populations, population densities, ethnic makeup of people, languages most found, dominant religions, forms of economic, social, and political organization.
So, yeah, so it's both, a little bit of both of those. That's what I was saying, there was a distinction between grade 5 and 4, because one was talking about like recreational activities, architecture, and the other one's talking about religions,
Yeah, they're
settlement
talking about the
patterns.
result of human activity.
Yeah, so it's kind of both of those.
We dammed up Table Rock, and now we've got a whole industry of entertainment and boating. So that's a physical and human characteristic of that lake area.
So you're gonna do the community, the next one down?
I can, absolutely.
Your community activities, the parallel.
This says human characteristics are the features and patterns of features on Earth's surface created by humans. That's short, sweet. And then like dams, roads, buildings, etc.
Got 1 hour. Finish up.
I say we go till
10.
I say we finish this.
We're going to E, F,
Maybe it's it.
G, H,
No,
I.
you can't.
All right. Relationships within places, human environment interactions with.
That's what I'm saying. So I had to switch to the paper copy because
Where are you at? Which one? Oh,
it's
you're
so
just
tiny.
reading this.
I'm
Okay.
jointed.
That's two. So that's three.
It is the conversion conclusion. We color coded conversion conclusion of pictures. I mean, this just doesn't work. Then D,
Yes, ma'am.
read relationships, huh?
Human and environment interactions or movement of peoples. They have 4th and 5th grade as the same. It's interesting that 3rd grade is already at the state level.
Yeah,
Actually, they don't have anything in 5th grade on that.
Oh, on the original one. So we included that in 5th grade. Thank you.
Isn't that the yellow what we had?
Yes, the yellow, we added that too.
Trying to get my color straight.
So 4th and 5th were the same. The yellow is the ones that are finished. And then they already have the state at the 3rd grade level.
so, but what's interesting is how so if you look at the bigger concept, relationships within places, human environment interactions. And so this involves, it's kind of a hodgepodge of different ideas. Because we're talking about, on one hand, what's right now in grade 5 that's highlighted in yellow, I think captures everything to some degree, except for settlement patterns.
To me, this one should be different because of the scope, I guess, you're looking at. Because if I'm looking through this through the eyes of a 2nd grader, described by people of different groups settle in more in one place than another. What am I going to be looking at? Where is place to me?
Physical characteristics.
It's physical characteristics too. So
Yeah.
it's rivers, resources, natural resources.
So what's there that makes them look to live there? Or move there?
So I'm talking about my region in Missouri.
But see, that's really different from then what's asked later, which is how people are affected by, depend on, adapt to, and change their physical environments.
Right.
So we've got
Which
two
seems to
different
me
kinds
to
of
make that like
concepts.
transportation, communication, things like the railroad, to me, that would better go with that.
Yeah. Yeah, so this one seems really muddy to me.
I think they probably combine two ideas.
Yeah, that's what it feels like to me too. You're trying to combine settlement with ecosystems.
Well, to me, it's they're getting at how have humans changed
And that
physical
too, yeah,
characteristics.
and there's that in there too, yeah.
It's-
So it's really kind of a muddy one. D becomes almost a catch-all.
Well, H is human systems and I is human environment interaction. And maybe that's why we're seeing so many holes, because they've just like spaced this stuff out so strangely.
Because here's transportation and communication here.
it's in the science curriculum.
It's what?
No, just
It's
there.
really part of the science curriculum.
Yeah,
I mean, as currently the science curriculum exists, it's already there.
How we affect our environment.
I mean, in some ways, I know from National Geographic Society, in some ways that's the core of understanding geography, is humans' interaction with their environment and environment impact on human beings. I mean, that's kind of the core understanding that we hope young people will walk away with.
So if we're adding to D, then we're taking out I, because I states human environment interactions, and there's nothing currently in grade
Yeah.
K through 5.
It's really messy.
So if we got rid of that, that would help me better just focus on D, if we're gonna leave it as, I mean, I guess we can change what it says,
Which part?
relationships within human places. Can we change that?
Well,
Absolutely.
look at H.
Yeah.
Identify major patterns of population distribution. Now, you would think that something about why people settle in some places rather than others would go there.
Right.
Too many human categories. We either pick one or rename one or combine or condense, whatever you guys wanna do.
Right?
But as a teacher looking at this is really confusing.
Yeah.
So maybe we can combine D, H, and I into one and rename it if we
Seems
have
like
to.
that's what they did up there.
And then broke it back out again.
Yeah.
And then it took us hours and hours to figure out why it did.
Well, part of it too might be that they did it because of 6, 7, and 8. They needed those categories for 6, 7, and 8.
Yes, you're exactly right.
And we're cutting this off at 5,
5.
right? Good.
Because there are whole grades there, like I is empty.
Right. Oh, I see that, but just from a visual standpoint, it's pretty messy.
It is. No, I agree.
We don't need to worry about anything above fifth grade.
So do we want to leave D like that? Relationships within places, human environment interactions, movement? Because to me, that's totally confusing.
I agree.
So Kathy, what do you want to say?
It's collapsing so many different things together.
And then the parentheses and the.
So toss it
I
out,
like,
keep the other ones.
What if, we kind of got that pattern of community,
Uh-huh.
world, state, nation? What if we did, describe how neighborhoods or communities or the state can change as new groups of people settle or as groups of people settle?
Migrate.
As the population changes.
Population changes.
Because what happens is you combine this human environmental interactions with movement. And it's that part I think that really muddies it, because if you could take that 5th grade one and work it down to the different levels, then it makes sense.
Right. If
And then the settlement one goes down with the other population patterns.
Explain why people change their environment. I don't know how lower grade we will go into it.
Describe how people are affected by, depend on, adapt to, and change their physical environment.
Understand how humans and the environment interact.
here is the human systems. Where was that?
Systems and science.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it goes to H.
Oh,
because,
thank you.
because then it builds up
Right. So we put in
towards
H.
the demographics, the patterns of people, population distribution. and
Right.
demographics,
And we take it out of.
that interaction with the environment,
Right.
which I read to be, how does the environment impact me? How do I impact the environment?
Mm-hmm.
So it's the effects of humans interacting with their environment,
Yeah.
instead of relationship with places and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So-
Human environment interactions.
There we go, that's fine.
Okay, so take off movement.
I just remembered the
Right.
thing.
Yeah, that's a real catch-all.
I would just like you to say, human interactions with their environment or with their environment or something. With the relationship with places and human environment. Why are we saying both?
So wouldn't this one move down to that other one?
The transportation.
It's movement of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's actually down there already.
Well, it's down
Transportation.
multiple
It's
places.
in E, yeah.
But these are, I think the differences between how they want, they're trying to influence the way we teach these concepts. It's over, so this is understanding relationships between and among peoples. And so we're talking about technologies and transportation. And this one's between land and people and technology. So they're trying to influence the way you think about things.
Yeah, it's really parsing it out.
Right,
It
that's,
really is.
that's what they've done. They've really made it narrow, which I think is too narrow.
Which goes back to Tanya's point.
Right, absolutely. Wow. Okay, so if we just look at D, we describe how people are affected by, depend on, adapt to, and change the physical environment. Then we've talked about various ecosystems in Missouri in grade 3. What would that look like in grade 2?
So before that, prior question is, why do we jump to the term ecosystems? And it only appears there. Why aren't we still talking about environments?
Isn't an ecosystem a type of environment?
Yeah, but that's in, like she said, that's in our science book.
As which one?
Ecosystem.
Environment and ecosystem.
Yeah, an ecosystem
Is
is
that-
a subset of an environment. I believe.
Just kind of why they do.
Yeah, I just don't know why it's there. Why that doesn't just repeat what the other one was, except at the level of Missouri, because we're basically talking about the same thing.
Right.
So why we're not using parallel language there, I don't know.
Well, we can. We don't have to be restricted by what they have. But the key here, I think, is what's the physical factors that cause them to be the way they are. So it's almost a historical look at that.
Well, the other one's all in historical terms too, because it's all past tense.
That's
Affected
right.
by.
Are affected by,
That too, and change. Affected by.
that's like nowadays,
Yeah.
in a way.
That's what you're saying.
So should we, what was that wording we used up above when we wanted them to look at past and present?
I think in past and
Or we
present.
just put past and
I like
present?
that. I like that.
I mean, doesn't that
Yeah,
cover it?
it does.
Because it really helps them.
Because that's an important thing to understand, is that the world we see around us does not always look this way.
Right.
And it may not always look this way in the future. And how it looked in the past was changed by human beings, or not, or it impacted the human beings who moved there, and how they settled and where they settled. And they changed things to make it more so, they drained the swamps so we could live there, make farms, have cattle on.
And do we need to go any further down with that? When we talk about our community? So we have to unbold that and put it down here. Is that a regional thing and a community thing, or not?
That would be hard in
We could talk about pollution, we could talk about, a lot of that is science.
Yeah.
I think the
But I
broader
think any place where
scope
humans
is
settle, they change the environment.
true.
We put up houses, we clear fields, we dam rivers.
No matter what it is.
No matter where humans settle, we change the environment. And the environment impacts how we live.
And where do we first begin to talk about settlement?
Well, I think in this case, it would be good for, I would want my child to walk around their community and understand that, well, this was a forest once,
Urban sprawl.
and we cut down all these trees and put up houses.
Do we talk about that at the, this is state. So go down one more, you think? Is that what you're thinking?
I guess I could go to the first grade and stuff.
Do we change the wording? Because I think a first grade teacher will read that and they won't have a thunder clue what we're talking about.
Yeah, because they're not gonna. You wanna go down to first?
When you look at it on a regional level or on the state level, it's easy to teach. When you push it down to, I think we have to just change the wording, because I don't think teachers think, this was a field until 3 years ago when we built this new elementary.
Right.
We've changed, teachers don't think that way. And is that an important concept for every first grader to know? Or do we really start talking about that when we talk about the macro level of things?
What did he get to reserve?
I think you'd have to get so specific that it would be saying the how. Because to me, it would be, if you're talking about your community, you would be looking at photographs of, this is how it used to look, this is how it looks now. Because I think it has to be that concrete for that age level. So you could say compare past and present, past and present images or photographs or whatever of your community to
Explain how the
in order
environment.
to describe changes in the environment. I mean,
or how it impacts where people live.
Right, I think we have to get that simplistic for K1 or 2 if we put it down any further.
Can I say, like, just real quick, do we need
That's the question.
That's the question.
That's
to? I know that's what we would have to do, but my question is, well,
But I don't know that we need to.
yeah, I'm kind of thinking, we may not even need to. I mean,
I'm good with leaving it like this. I say we leave it as is, is what I'm gonna go with.
I'm good, because I would say, oh, it will be covered in science, but it doesn't matter to me when they learn it, as long as, if it's something we want them to learn, as long as they do, I do think we gotta be careful if we just keep moving things down, what that looks like in the classroom.
Can we leave it as is? You're down.
I'm down, because for me, it is the fundamental thing that we want to teach in geography. It's more important than reading a map. Because this is what, how people affect the environment, and how the environment affects them. It's more important than reading a map to me,
Tell me why.
because it influences decision-making about your life, and about human beings living.
I see what you're saying.
So for me, I don't think we have to do it every year, but I think it's something that, and when we talk about the community, yeah, you could look at photographs, or you could just walk out your door. You could do a field trip
So
and say,
maybe
what was
it's
here
investigate.
first? Yeah, maybe it's
Maybe the verb
investigate.
is investigate.
Because,
I just,
you could walk out and say, look, geography is more than reading a map. It's more than memorizing capitals. It's how people interact with their environment, how the environment impacts people. And in our community, where we are now, this once was whatever it was. It was a swamp, it was a forest, it was, people decided to live here and change this environment. And also when they came here, they had to have certain resources and develop certain resources. So it builds, it's a building block of understanding the importance of geography. Otherwise, it does become just memorizing stuff.
I see what you're saying.
And it's easiest to teach when you walk out your door.
I agree with that, but that again, does that mean that it has to be spread out? Or how do we determine, if it's something we want kids, how do we determine when to teach it? And it's not something I wouldn't say we want to take away, because I would agree, I think that's one of those hands-on places. Do you want them to know maps? Yes, but still kind of that relative, but location. So I say we have to be, whether it's that way, I just want to be careful, because I do feel like we're pushing lots of things down. And we do gotta kind of be cognizant of what that's going to look like in the classroom. And, it's not as, I keep thinking right now, Tanya was pointing earlier about what we're doing. I keep thinking, it's not as though my kindergarten teachers are sitting around trying to figure out how they're gonna fill the time.
They're filling the time already.
Right, and so that means that if we're not careful, are we just, I just wanna be careful with that.
So what we're looking at now is, on the geography, it used to go through to, what was it, J? And we're not doing anything below G. There's nothing in there as of now. And I look back on what we've added, and we really haven't added that much to kindergarten for geography.
Yeah, I wouldn't add it to kindergarten. I would start at first grade, because you've got kids at school and you can walk out and do a walk around your neighborhood.
You can do kindergarten, walk around the playground, and do your neighborhood.
But
That's what I'm saying.
They're gonna leave the neighborhood, we're gonna have to get.
Field trip,
Field
yeah, you can
trip
walk
for
around
farms.
the inside perimeter of the Princeton playground and look at the neighborhood.
Now, we gotta figure out, is that the same number of field trips as all the other grades?
That's a little.
It happens.
If we keep it very simple, and we're teaching them at a younger age that your interaction with the environment changes the way the world looks, I'd be okay with it. And I think a kindergartner understands that concept. If I throw down my lunchbox and my trash on the ground, and then somebody has to come out and pick it up, or litter, or recycle it, or something, it can be tied in somehow.
Well, it makes me think of our playground. They cut out one of the only trees on the playground, this huge tree that all the kids played under. They cut it out because of whatever, dead or whatever the reason was, and that changed their environment. I mean, that changed their playground. That's not, they don't play there anymore. They play elsewhere.
But are they really, here's my thing keeps going back to, they can relate to that, but you're talking about concept of understanding that. Like, I don't think that kindergarten, first grade, maybe, I don't even know that second grade, I mean, I think you're gonna struggle even in the third grade to get a child, I mean, you can teach them relative things if they can understand the relativity of it, but to understand that concept, so are you gonna test? Because you're saying these are things that you want kids to know. The concept of that, to me, is not gonna be there. Kindergarten, first grade, I even questioned in the third grade, the actual concept of it. Yes, you can teach them the relative idea that, hey, this tree cut down really changed our playground. But the concept of how that did, I don't think it's there.
So here's an example for kindergarten. It says interaction between human and its environment. It says explain why people use environmental resources to meet the basic needs of life, shelter, food, clothing. I think you can teach it, I think they can grasp it, I think they can own it, and I think they can be assessed on something like that.
Say that again?
Explain ways people use environmental resources to meet basic needs of life. So they're looking at,
But that's not really this.
that's not interacting, but how can they do
Concept.
something basic with interacting?
Right, I'm thinking the reason I said let's not include anymore, I'm thinking my second grader she's seen enough of the world in 8 years to realize that the environment around her has changed. And that means we can't do certain things, and we can do certain things now in our community based off of the interaction. Whether it's good or it's bad. Second graders get that, because she's seen enough of life to understand it. Does a first grade need to know, a kindergarten kid need to know?
Then you go back to, but then you also go back, I'm sorry, go ahead and finish.
No, I'm
I was just gonna say, you go back to, you were talking about children who don't have the opportunities that yours do. So, because yours or my 8-year-old could understand that, does that mean that it's something expected for all? Because, I mean, I would tend to think that way too, but you guys keep bringing up that it's, what about kids that don't have the experiences that others do?
That's what rural and urban, I mean, there's kids that if you've never left the city of St. Louis, you're not used to even seeing, I mean, and there's a lot of kids in our, who have never actually left the city of St. Louis to see what we did to the woods. I mean, the woods is something they hear about with the big bad wolf. I mean, it's not, that's not something that most of the kids can even relate to. I mean, there's a large number, so I do think we gotta be cognizant that some kids that is gonna be harder to see, other than maybe, thinking downtown St. Louis, there may be some construction in some areas like that are going on, but that's an interesting look at environment. So,
But what was here before in St. Louis?
But that's what I'm saying, can a kindergarten student really even think about what was here before the city of St. Louis? Or is that beyond their frame of reference?
I would say a first grader, because you could say this place where we are, our community, and we can walk out the door.
But again, I thought it was the concept though of that. Like, again, I can say, I think a child could relate and go, oh yeah, the teacher said that this used to be this, but the concept that humans change the environment so that this could be this now, I don't think I'm tracking with you on 6-year-old having that concept to test them. Now, if you put on a test, hey, what was in this place before your school was built here? They could tell you that, but the concept of that?
I think that's good, because how would you assess, I mean, what's the question you ask a kindergarten to answer? There's not a they're gonna have to be able to, can you explain how humans changed this to make this? I think that might be, that's a little deeper than to know there was something here before, maybe.
So if this is an assessment document, you would hope that, well, someone like Kathy she would know where we're headed in third grade, and she might include that in second grade. She would, for people like Aaron, who they're just looking at their column. They're not looking at either side, they're just looking at their column. What do I have to do? Then they won't. But if the curriculum is planned well, that will be an embedded concept that builds to where we can actually say this should be assessed.
Right, that someone introduces it before
Right.
it's actually assessed.
Right. So I wouldn't disagree at all that this is probably third is about where you'd want to assess something like that. Now, if they're planning curriculum, hopefully they should talk about it way before then. But on these columns down here that are blank, I can guarantee you teachers don't look at what's coming ahead, and there's not a K-5 teacher that probably looks at that and says, well, what do I need to prep kids for?
So in second grade, when you have described why people in different groups settle in one place more than another, you're just looking for, like they settle by rivers or settle on the highlands.
You're looking at regions, right.
Okay.
Or, down in our area of the world, why are people from Mexico settling in our part of Missouri? Because we have all these chicken plants. Yeah, I do
I
too.
thought you meant Mexico, Missouri.
No.
Come to our school and talk to us about that. They go to all these big cities where they're populated, and they recruit them to come and work at the chicken house.
Right.
Chicken.
I mean, our kids follow big semis down the road with feathers falling everywhere. I mean, that's not an uncommon sight.
Yeah.
That's just how our part of Missouri works. But that's a movement of why do they settle in our place and not others? Your school, right, your school is an example of
Why are they all coming to your school?
That's a whole different,
Yeah.
that's like I said, push and pull factors. Some of it's a community, some of it's, I think a lot of it is just different factors. I mean, there is a lot of different factors. Depends on, right now, I think it starts with certain people coming in for jobs.
Yeah.
Just like that, and then eventually what happens is other people just move to where there's a community of people. So they feel comfortable with their.
or they feel comfortable.
That happened in my part of the district too.
Okay. So do we need to go? Oh, where did we go? What Just a lot of stuff to do.
It's above that.
It's above this. Good, great. Is this it? Yes. Do we need to push that down any further?
So right now, it's at what, third grade?
Third grade. Where we've assessed that as a concept. Kathy, do you think you need to assess this as a second grade? Yeah, I don't think so either, in my thinking.
Now, saying that, and working heavily with second grade curriculum, when we're talking about our local history, we definitely talk about that. And we compare the earliest photographs of independence to current photographs of independence and landmarks that they would be familiar with.
But you don't assess it. Right. So I'm gonna go back to what I suggest we don't push that any further down. Does anyone want to add anything to that, or can we just take a heads up?
I'll live with it for now.
Okay, thumbs up or thumbs down? All right, we're gonna leave it. Understanding relationships between and among places?
This is what communication, transportation one.
Yes. So here's the wording we use, historical and current context. do we want to use that with the past and present, or leave that other one as past and present?
I like past and present.
Okay. Okay, describe opportunity.
No, this is definitely one I don't feel like we need to push too far down.
So fourth will read the same as fifth.
That's what we have. We decided that last time we were here. That means we have to keep it.
Well, because the written in the actual document, fourth and fifth don't have anything.
Yes, fourth and fifth don't have anything. So the ones that's at grade 3,
So you're starting this one at grade 2.
and in our current GLEs, it's only grades 2 and 3, and then it skips to grade 6. So that's
That's
all.
because 4 and 5 is so critical with history,
Right.
probably.
And so we suggested, with historical and current context, that
Gives a chance to build that in.
this is a concept that needs to be included in what we're talking about. And we do. That's the part, I mean, the railroad system.
Absolutely. Transcontinental Railroad and all of
Right.
that. Elementary, state highway.
Telegraphs, all of those.
Should we change that historical and current context to past and present, just like the other one? I mean, it would be,
I think that's,
Well, those are
you can
sensitive.
change it.
Right.
But you're going to change it.
No, I'm asking, do you want this one changed to past and
I
present?
thought that's what we
We
said.
said yes.
Oh, no, okay, I'm sorry.
You asked that
Sorry.
nicely, like,
I didn't get,
No, that's not what I meant, I'm just,
I was asking to go the other direction. Do we want to change the other past and present to this?
oh no, I thought we were going with
Nope.
past and present. I
Nope.
just thought maybe you were gonna
I
do it
didn't
later.
understand. No. Sorry, see, that's,
Just thought maybe you're gonna do it. Say you weren't, don't do it.
no.
So we good with that whole
Do we
row?
need to add any more to that, or can we live with it?
I'm just looking at the E, the continued one down there, kind of sticking out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, that really,
And that's in third grade as of now.
Well, it actually fits.
Is that actually true?
You did say
That's
You
a
say
yes or no question.
it doesn't matter as much now in the global society we live in. But years ago it did, because, you know, you had somebody that specialized as a blacksmith,
Uh-huh.
you know, that mattered, but now does it, any of that really matter? You buy everything from China anyways.
That's a really odd. We could.
Like,
Oh,
just say
what-
doctors
is
and
it-
lawyers and.
it's everywhere.
Yeah, they're talking about trade.
But it's more than trade.
Specialize in different ways of making a living, so I mean,
Yeah, so it's that.
Where they live, what they do, and how they interact.
Yeah, across space. So it's almost. It's weird. This makes me think of what Tanya said earlier. Do we really need to specify this?
It would just go better in F, understand relationships between.
Right, it almost does.
No, but it's people, it's not
Right.
necessarily the region, but people live in the region. I would take that one out or do something else with it.
Yeah, me too.
I'm gonna put a red over it. And look at the, in-depth understanding at the DOK 3 And 4.1 has to do with reasoning.
We're gonna read it two
Reason-
times.
Right.
I know.
Somebody really had a heavy investment in that the first time we
No,
went
they
through
were
this,
like, we need
obviously.
COP3, what do you want
It's
to
in
see?
fourth grade.
Insert road.
It's in fourth grade, so if they're looking.
No, third.
No, it's in
Is that
third.
third? Or second, third, okay.
I don't get it.
It's bizarre.
You know, what do you, I mean, I know our third grade does a lot with immigration. Now I'm thinking, I wonder if it came through some of those things, that's where they start talking about by Ellis Island, and a lot of the, in third grade. So I think, I wonder if it just fits in with some of that stuff. Like, why would people need to move, and why would people need, it's a lot of those push and pull factors.
We were reading that out,
We were gonna read it.
but I don't know.
But the examples are cities, suburbs, towns, and villages,
Yeah,
not,
so it doesn't fit.
not countries.
Yeah. I'm renting it out.
Anybody else?
Yeah. Relationships between and among, first I thought it said religions. I was like, wow, I realized we
It's
talked
gonna
about
be a long time.
we don't have enough time to discuss this one today.
What are we looking at now?
Yeah,
Now, don't we do all this above?
That's,
I
In
wonder,
the standards above? Because isn't that what human and physical characteristics are? I think
Did we-
so.
Did we explicitly discuss things like rural and urban and some of those places, recreation, is that discussed?
no, because we said it was down below.
So I do think that seems to be, especially in the second, third grade, that seems to be a big part of this.
Well, it is in human characteristics of a place.
yeah, it's in there somewhere.
Architecture,
It's
kinds
just
of
that we don't
economic,
do it across
recreational
all grade
activities.
levels, we clustered it into, so it's regions in the world, regions in the state. Or was
Regions
it,
in the
no, it's just
community.
regions in their community, then regions in the state.
Regions
in the
across,
nation.
yeah. I think we actually pick up all of these.
In C,
Yeah,
I guess that's what I was trying to say earlier, some of them are just too thin
I
out.
was regions, but can I borrow your, my glossary, I know I had.
So look at how we put it here, because we changed this one last time we were here. What is that one, F?
yeah.
Grade 5 is identify different kinds of regions in the United States. And so we changed it to identify different kinds of regions in the United States and analyze how their characteristics affect humans, history, economy, government, society, today's culture. So we majorly changed that to, but maybe all of that is up above.
That's what it seems like to me. Except not the and analyze part. Because above it's all kind of described.
Do we compare regions up above? We are asking,
Identify and describe.
we are asking for a different kind of thinking process in F than we have up above. Up above, we've learned about them as
We identify and describe.
DOK1 things.
Is there no way to combine the two? Because I'm looking at this as a teacher saying, I'm looking at C, the concept of place, but I'm looking at F, the relationship among regions. place is an area and a region is an area, even if the GOPs are increased, they're really separated on this chart.
What you could do is change the verb up here to compare. Compare physical characteristics of specific regions, compare physical characteristics of the
Yeah.
nation.
Instead of just identifying.
And then that gets those things.
Yeah.
You have to identify them before you compare them.
You can do both, can't you? Identify and compare.
You could.
So you're labeling them.
Yeah.
This is a mountainous region, but if I'm comparing a mountainous region to a plains region.
Yep. I do that.
And if I'm comparing the human characteristics
Yeah.
of those two regions, it would speak to.
And maybe you can just ditch all of this stuff.
They shouldn't have had to record their meetings when they make this. So we could have watched it and seen if they find, because you know, 70 years from now, people are gonna watch ours and they're doing it again, just like, why were we doing that? They have already realized that maybe they would go back like.
Oh, yeah.
Don't worry, it'll come back.
Yeah, I heard that. For now.
Right.
That's right.
But
To
I may
move
bring it
forward,
back up later.
we'll move
Right.
forward. When we polish this thing up again, it may shine, it may not.
Okay, G's done. We did G last time. It's finished. So we're really on H. Do we want to look at G or you can say it's okay?
I think that speaks to regions of the world,
Mhm.
regions of this
Right.
state.
I think we're
And
good.
why you can't buy Missouri peaches all year long, you know, you're processed.
Right. Can we be down with it? I've got 2 thumbs.
There you
I'm gonna vote for people who aren't here.
I know, I noticed Julie left us. Her face is no longer in there, like, okay.
Yeah. Well, when you're watching it and you're not listening, it seems like it's not going anywhere.
It sometimes feels that way over here.
At least you're here to
That's
like, know
true.
that's what's happening.
He's gonna know how to
So
empathize.
before
I
we
think
just,
day one always goes slower and harder than day two.
Yeah.
It's just reorienting.
Mhm.
so with G, explain what the decision rule was. Because each one's a little bit different. Because we were like alternating between present and past. And interpreted, so what's going on in grade 2, we've got to explain the present. But then we don't talk about the present in grade 3. We only talk about the past.
Because we've already done the present.
It's present down below. See how, so it could say use geography to describe
And
Missouri in the past and present.
Yeah, up there before the parentheses.
Yeah, so
That's
past.
you see it,
Oh, I
you see it down
see.
there.
Okay.
It's there, it's just, yeah,
Like that.
Okay.
Yep.
that way you,
Good job.
so yeah, describe
Okay, just so you know the way this was, what this came from, this was a second grade glee. Use geography to explain the present, and then it skipped to fourth grade, use geography to interpret the past and predict future consequences. And so we said that's
Yeah, that built in, became the.
right. So that's why we took what we did, you weren't here, I forgot about it. We took the G, we took the heading under G and moved it to fifth grade. And then fourth grade, we kept it mostly like it was. Third grade, we added a piece, and then kept it second grade.
Do we want to have past and present in all of these, or?
Why don't we just put it under G if we're going to? Using geography to interpret, explain, predict, past and present. Or maybe just saying, instead of adding it in each one, if you're going to do that. Then I would look at that before you even looked at the other part and thought, okay, I need to know before and now what this is going to do. Entail.
I think with second grade, we thought it was easy to do to present what's in front of them, their community grocery store, so that was easy. Boy, we got a hard frost this week, so what's that gonna mean, man? All of our flowering trees, so means that we're not gonna get some apples. So, I mean, that's easy to present, but, so we thought grade 3, when we get more into Missouri history, we would be able to do that past and present piece. And then 4 and 5 would be.
Or is past or future?
Yeah, so for the future.
Right, 4 adds the future, and then 5 is just saying geography to do all of these things.
Okay.
So it kind of scaffolds it up, what we were thinking.
Is there a way to clean up the language in 4? It's kind of a.
Sure.
It's lots of parentheses.
That's just exactly the way it
Yes,
is in the
that's
original
what it was.
document.
Just on the bottom, instead of what would likely happen if the population of the city increases considerably, can't you just put population of city increase, or population of city doubles?
I think they were just trying to give the teacher a sense of what
They
this
are,
is talking
aren't they?
about.
Yeah.
It just kind of clarifies it for a teacher.
Mhm.
Refers as transportation.
That's 9 minutes, 8 minutes.
Come on. I get that. Thumbs up, or thumbs down.
To leave it as is for now,
Yep.
like it is, I'm good with keeping it like it is.
Yep, you got all thumbs up.
All right.
H.
We moved some stuff down to this one.
Oh yeah, because we have the settlement pattern one,
Right.
which is like in second grade or something.
Because originally the only thing on this was 5th, 6th, and 8th. Where you're thinking about the history of what it was talking about. I'm talking about the United States and then the world and then the United States again.
H just sounds kind of funny, it's human systems.
It does.
I'm like digestive, respiratory,
Exactly.
what else?
Well,
We
we
go
call
from
it
all these
something else.
great things to like anatomy.
You want to call it something else?
Whatever you want to do. What do you want to call it? Chief step.
Geography and migration, geography and human settlement, or call it human settlement instead of human systems.
So we move this down.
Makes more sense.
This was somewhere else.
Yeah. So right now that's sitting in K12. Describe why people in different groups settle more in one place than another.
They were already into,
And that makes sense.
so we just pull them down.
Yeah. How transportation and communication facilitate what people practice ideas. That and
I think you could almost do the transportation communication systems, you could almost move that to third.
yeah, wasn't that above?
No, not that one.
That is somewhere else under the transportation.
Here's technology, see here, look at this, describe different types of
Yeah.
communication, transportation, and identify their advantages. And then this one's describe how changes affected people's lives. That's in third grade. So would we rather,
This is how it affected the movement.
What did we do with G? Because there you have, oh, wait a minute,
there's G, rolling human transportation
there it
in
is.
Missouri.
There's human transportation there.
So would this be better to move to
Up above,
Missouri?
There's one where you compare that already.
Yeah.
Change
drop
from
it.
transportation,
Ah, right
education, and
can we just drop
is
it?
it in another strand?
In D, under relationships within places, that human environment one, it says describe why people, it's D.
Yeah, it is. There it
Describe
is.
why people of different groups settle in more than one place or another. Then we have it in H.
But I think we can drop it.
I knew the whole human system thing is kind of weird myself, because we're already talking about environment, human, and land, and
And I-
people and land.
And I think is it maybe in the relationships one and.
Right, there's a in relationship, it's in there
You
too.
compare changes
Right.
in education, transportation, and communication.
I'm fine with taking all of H out, because I think it's already built it better in the things about. Oh, we gotta vote. We gotta vote at 3:56.
Just still before
Sorry.
Patrick gets back.
Yep, we're done.
I didn't really discuss that.
That leaves J.
Should we edit on it?
Yeah.
Yeah, two reasons.
This is already-
We wrote a note that said there's no need to impact this.
Okay,
Yeah,
it's
the
above.
third impact on the vote.
Yeah.
So question, for tomorrow, we're going on to economics.
Lisa, you didn't think we get through geography. Look at that.
Bam.
Put a challenge in
Jeff
front
is
of us and
staying?
look what happens.
Is that one
That
staying?
was
Which one?
Her-
J? Is that,
Is it staying then?
Okay, one,
not
two,
six
three,
J,
five.
staying one,
Oh, is
two.
that-
Oh, no, that's not.
That's
fifth
fifth.
grade.
Is that
Yeah.
staying in fifth grade? Is that?
You start, you turn it past.
I think we have that above, don't we?
Let's look and look.
Yeah,
Look
use
and
geography to interpret, explain, and predict. That's in G.
So
Yeah,
what's the
look
difference
at
between
past and
G and J?
Mhm.
What if we take this one
And put it up there.
and move it up
I
above?
like that.
whole-
And then that can be just eliminated.
I like
I
that.
feel like that kind of stopped abruptly there at the top.
Right.
I like that.
And so we are done with,
So how many of these are done now?
2.
Just geography and social and religion.
2 out of 7.
And we want economics tomorrow?
We're a lot further along than some others.
Not the science.
They just copy,
survey?
they just cut and paste.
The secondary science, you want the survey?
Secondary
I got some stuff
science.
from elementary science, and theirs is amazing. Really big one.
They just cut and
Oh, this
paste.
is the big idea, and this is what we're gonna do, but they had a lot of people in their group who specialized in the topics that they went over. So like if you were a bioengineer talking about whatever,
Right.
I mean, absolutely.
Right.
I'm
That's
not
really
sure the
cool.
guy did an official question.
I know. I love it, but the way they laid it out, being a teacher, not having taught that, you can read that and be able to
It's
teach it.
358. Very good. So we're down to 4.
There's only like 3 pages of economics.
Yeah, economics is pretty thin.
There's like 2.
So,
No, that page is blank, that page is blank.
so
Yeah, there's 3.
if you have the energy tonight, you want to read through there and start thinking, you can.
I'll be doing my other work.
Right.
My work for tonight.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. I don't think I'll have an opportunity to, but.
But it's only page 20, 21,
Right. So we might be able to kick it out
and
tomorrow.
22.
Absolutely. I think it's pretty exciting.
I think we're at 370.
Almost halfway.
That's about the extent.
I know.